Hello everyone. So I welcome you again in this VPC part 2. In the first part we discussed how to create the virtual private cloud, that is how to create our network on the clouds. So in the first part we have learned creating the VPC, and then we also created one subnetwork inside the VPC, and then we created one window instance, one window server you can say, in that subnet. In this lab, we will create one private subnetwork in the same VPC. So this video is basically the next part of the first video. I am continuing from the step that we have already finished. So if you have already finished lab 1 or part 1, then only you can able to continue with this video. So I suggest you to first go to the part 1 and then continue with this. So let's start. Let us see what we have achieved so far. This is the thing that we have achieved. We have one VPC, and inside that we have created one public subnetwork. In this lab, we will be going to do this kind of structure. We have one VPC. Inside this VPC, we have one public subnetwork, and then we have private subnetwork. And then later we will try to have a communication between these two subnetworks. Okay, so this part we have already achieved. VPC already we have done, public subnetwork we have already done. So we will now go and create the private subnetwork. So go to services and then go to VPC. In the VPC you can see the status that this is already we have created one VPC with the name VPC1. Now I am going to create a subnet. So in the subnet you can see that there is already one subnetwork with the name public subnet is there. These are default subnet because for this North Virginia we have 6 availability zones. So creating one subnet, so we'll write here. So here we will use the same naming convention. So I have given VPC public subnet. So now I will write here private subnet, and this private subnet must be a part of the VPC which we have created, and that is VPC1. Then which availability zone, you can select any availability zone. So let's say I am going to select US East 1A. Now we have a block that is 10.0.0.16. This is our VPC. This is a kind of block, the block of IPs that we have taken in our network, and then out of these range we have created some networks. So in the first subnetwork we have chosen 10.0.0.0/24. Here we will take 10.0.1.0/24 for the private subnetwork that we are going to create. So here you can see we have this private subnetwork is ready. Then we have routing tables. So route tables we have to create for each subnetwork. So already we have created the routing table for the public subnetwork. Now I am going to create a route table for a private subnetwork. So here we can give the name, and again I will use the same naming convention. So let's say already I can see maybe I have created earlier. So root table VPC1 private subnet is the name given to this table, and this is basically for VPC1. So I am saying that this is a table which I am creating, which is to be used inside the VPC1. Then later I will associate this table with the private subnet. So okay, then click on create. Now your table is created. Now we will go into this table and see more details about it. So this is the table which we have created. Go here, and then you have to associate this table with your private subnet. So click on this. Here you can click edit associations, and I will associate this table, this private routing table private subnet, with my private subnet. Keep in mind, every subnet can have one table, but one table can be connected to many subnets. Okay, this is important to know. Okay, so now we have associated this table with the subnet. Then we'll go to the routing entries, because routing table basically contains some entries, and these entries guides that how the packets to be forwarded. So here you can see this contains only one entry, that 10.0.0.6, which is basically the identity of that VPC. This is a network which is identified by this address. So here it is local. That means any address that actually relates to this 10.0.0.6 will be a part of this local network. Now, one thing to uh, understand here, that because this is a private subnetwork means we don't want the entities inside this private subnetworks to communicate with the outside world. We only want that all the instances, all the resources which are in this network can only communicate within the VPC, not outside it. That's why we don't have added an entry of internet gateway. Like if you go to the public subnetwork, you can see here in this routing table we have added one entry which says that if there is any request coming apart from this address, then it has to be forwarded to the internet gateway. So internet gateway is a kind of router which actually handles all the incoming request or any request which want to communicate to this VPC. So it's an entry and exit point. So in the public subnet we have an entry to connect with internet gateway, but with the private subnet we don't have this entry, because the purpose of this is to make the communication only available within the VPC. Okay, so now we have achieved one VPC. We have two subnetworks, we have a routing table, and we have a internet gateway. So now what is remaining? Already we have created one instance in the public subnetwork in the previous lab. In this lab we will create another instance in the private subnetwork. Okay, so we'll go to EC2. So you can go to running instances. You can see we have one instance public running inside the public subnet. I have already stopped this, so let us restart it again. It's always a good practice that when you finish your lab, you can either stop your instance or you can terminate your instance. I will make it restart. I will start the instance which was already created in the public subnetwork. So the next thing is to create a new instance in the private subnetwork. So I'll go and create two instance, and also you can click here launch instance. So already we have seen that how to configure our instance. We have to go through 7 steps. Here I will be doing it quickly because already we know how to configure it. I am going to use a free tier. So in the free tier, I am going to use a Windows instance. I am going to set up a Windows server on my private subnetwork. So this is Windows Server 2019. Select this, and then I'll go with the default settings. Now this is important. Here you have to tell that this instance will be a part of which VPC. So we already have one VPC. I want that this instance to be a part of my VPC1. Then in this VPC1 we have two subnetworks. So it will be asking that in which subnetwork you want to create this instance. So we have public and private. I want to create in the private subnetwork. Then keep in mind that whenever we uh, create any instance in our VPC created by the user, then the default option is disable. So in the case of the instance which we created in the public subnetwork, we make it enable because we want to assign one public IP. Public IP is always required when you want to communicate to the outside world. But in this case, we don't want to assign any public IP, so we will keep it disabled. That means only private IP is assigned to this instance. Then we'll just move to the next. We keep all the things same, then nothing to make changes. Then the security group we will keep with the same. We will go with the same security group that we have created for the VPC. So we'll go selected existing group, that is VPC1 SG, and then you can review and launch this. So this is now ready. You just click on launch, and you have to create one key pair. You actually required one key pair to connect to your instance, to connect to your server. Already we have created one key pair. Either you can create a new or you can use the previous one. We are going to use the previous one, which is VPC1 key pair, and launch instance. So everything is done. You can just click on view instance, and you can just refresh to see the current status. So our this instance, which is inside the public network, sorry, which is inside the public subnetwork, is now ready. But still some checks are required to make it actually ready to work on. Here also it is actually not configured fully. Some checks are still pending. So you can see the status. You can just click on it, and you can see that we need to, it needs to go two checks. One is the system status check and the instance status check. When the two checks will be performed completely, then only we will get here 2 by 2 status, and that means you can work on the on your instance. Also we can give the name here. So we have given this VPC1 public server. Here we can give it VPC1. That means I want to say that I am inside the VPC1, and this is private server. This is a private instance which I have created in the private subnetwork. This is just a notation. There is not any technical meaning. This is just a logical meaning. That public server means this is a instance which is created inside the public subnetwork. This is the instance which is created inside the private subnetwork. This is the only meaning. You can give whatever name you want to. So here you can see that public subnetwork is actually ready, but still there is some more checks are required, or some processing is actually required to configure it properly. It will take some time, so we will wait for some time to get it configured properly. By the time to connect to your instances, we need to have one RDP file. So by the time we will get ready with the RDP file, so I'll go to the connect. Just to remind you that in the previous lab, for connecting to the public server, we have already downloaded one RDP file. It is on my desktop. So here I am going to download the RDP file which is required to connect to my instance. So I'll go to connect, and then I'll go to RDP client, and I will click on this remote desktop file. It will allow you to save one file. The name is VPC private server RDP. In the previous case we have downloaded one VPC1 public server RDP. I am storing this on the desktop, so it is saved on desktop. And keep in mind that the default username is administrator, and you need to have a password to connect to your instance. And before that you also need one key. There is one private key is also required to get this password. We will see it very soon. So first go to our instance and see the status. We will refresh it, and now it is actually ready. So first we will try to connect our server which is inside the public subnetwork. So we click here, and then we will go to the RDP, which is public server RDP. Here we click on connect, and it will ask you the password. So we will go back to our console. From here we can get the password. RDP client, it will say to get the password, click on password. It will ask you to browse the key pair. Already we have a key pair which is a PEM file. and it will give us the password which needs to be decrypted. So you decrypt it and then copy the password and then go to your RDP file, paste it here, and you are able to connect to your server. So here basically you can check that this is your server which is having a public IP, the private IP, and all other information. You can check it here. One thing to keep in mind that we have used RDP to connect to our server, and this is only possible because we have a public IP. If we don't have the public IP, then you cannot connect to your server using an RDP. So let us try to connect our private server. So we'll go back and then we'll have a look. We will go back to our instances, and this is our private server. We will use the RDP which we have created to connect to the private server. We'll say connect, and it is trying to connect. Let's see what is the result. So it is trying to connect to this 10.0.1.147, which is a private IP, and private IP will not allow you to connect to your server. So in order to connect to your server, we must have a public IP. So this is not allowed. Now, so the scenario is we have one server, we call it public server because it is having a public IP address that is used to connect to the server remotely using an RDP. But this private server means the server which is having a private IP in the private subnetwork can be accessed within the VPC. Means all the resources which is inside the VPC can communicate with each other. That means the server which is having a public IP can communicate to the private server. So let's see how this is possible. So what we can do is, this is our server machine. This is our server machine which is a kind of instance which is inside a public subnetwork. So we will search for remote desktop connection. Now you are now trying to access any other machine which is inside the same network, which is inside the same VPC. So VPC is our main network, and inside that main network we have two sub networks. Okay, so now we will go and check what is the private IP of our this private server. So here you can see there is no public IP assigned to it, but we have a private IP. So you can just copy this private IP and go here, and here you can pass this private IP and then click on connect. It will ask you the user and the password. So by default we have administrator as a user, and the password we need to go back and check what is the password. So here you can go to connect and RDP and then get password. You can browse the key pair. This already we have done this kind of steps, so I am doing it fast. And you can just copy this password, go it here, and then paste it here. Okay, and it will say, do you want to connect? And we are successfully connected to our second server. So just have a look here. This is a server which is going to start soon for us. So now, though we are not able to connect through RDP from the outside to this server, but yes, within the VPC we are able to communicate, we are able to connect. So you can see this is another server ready for us. You can check its configuration. It is given here. Let me show you. So here you can see this is this bigger one, means the screen which is shown at the back side. The bigger screen is a screen of the server which has a public IP, private IP, you can see here, and this one is a server which represent a private server, means this is a server which we have created inside the private subnetwork. It has only the private IP. So now the next thing that you can check is here. If you go into this into the private server, you can say, when I say private server, I mean the server which I have created inside the private subnetwork which have only private IP. This is the meaning of the private server I'm using here. So when you click here and when you try to access anything through the internet, so you will just go here and type here, let's say AWS, or you can say Amazon.com, and actually it will share it will, and you will see that it will not allow you to access any web page because internet access is not given to this server. We don't have any route that will take you to the internet gateway. But when you go to this machine, so if I click on this Internet Explorer here, and if I want to connect, if I write here Amazon.com, and we'll see the difference what is happening. So you can see that it will allow you to access any website because internet is accessible here in the previous server which is inside the public subnetwork, but here actually you are not allowed to access this. Okay, so the other thing we can check through the ping that we have access to internet or not. So what we do, we first go to our private server, this machine which is actually shown in a smaller form, smaller window compared to the previous one. Here also you can see this is your public IP 184.73.15.90. This is the private IP. Okay, now if I go and go to command prompt, if I write here command prompt, it will show you the command prompt to me. And if you want to check that internet is connected or not, you will write a ping command with 8.8.8. And so when you make a request with this ping command, and if the request time out, that means the internet is not connected. Similarly, we will check the same thing with our you can say public server. So we'll see that what is happening here. So I just go here and I will write here command prompt, and just to check that internet access is available to us or not with this server, we will write the same command and we'll make a request, ping request, and see what is happening, and you will get the proper reply. So here you can see that in the public server internet access is allowed. How it is happening? Because we have configured the routing table. In the routing table we didn't mention any entry for the internet gateway, so only the communication inside the VPCs is actually permissible. So this is all for this lab. Now we will see in the next lab that how we can make it possible for the private server to communicate to the outside world. For this we need to create one net, that is a network addressing table, which is actually helping the private subnetwork to carry the messages to the outside world. So whenever any packet to be delivered to the outside the VPC, it will be sent to the net table, and net table will take care to forward the packet to internet gateway, and then internet gateway will forward the packet to the defined destination. So in the next lab we will see how to make this private subnetwork communicate to the outside world, outside the VPC. So we will see that how to create the net table. Thank you very much.